Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello everyone. My name is Nabila Lathifa Zahra from English Literature, and here I want to tell you about organs of speech from segment of Best English Phonetic Course. So let's skip to the first slide. What is organ of speech? Organ of speech is any part of the body that participates actively or passively, voluntary or involuntary in the production of speech sound. So, what do you know about voice? Okay, let me tell you. Voice is the sound produced by humans and other vertebrates using the lungs and the vocal folds in the larynx. Voice, also usually called by vocalization. And voice and speech are not the same. The example of voice or vocalization is an infant crying or an adult laughing. So, what is speech? Speech is a series of complex movements that alter the basic tone created by voice into specific. So, here are the organs of speech. There is the mouth, the lips, the tooth, the larynx, and other. Okay, next slide. In your opinion, what organs do we use to produce speech sound? Okay, here we have vocal folds. What is vocal folds? Vocal folds are two bands of tissue, the bands of tissue that are positioned opposite each other in the larynx. So the vocal folds is opposite each other, and located in the larynx of human. I'm sorry, I have to turn off my camera because I think it's taking little error. So the larynx is located between the base of the tongue. Where is the tongue? The base of the tongue, between the base of the tongue and the top of the passageway to the lungs. This is the lungs, so this is the passageway to the lung and larynx located between the base of tongue and the top of the passageway. This is known as the trachea. The passageway here is namely trachea. When you are not speaking, the vocal folds are open. As you can see here, the vocal folds are open so that you can breathe. You can breathe when the vocal folds are open. Voice is generated by airflow from the lungs. Voice produced by airflow from when we are breathing, taking the air into the lungs. The large dome-shaped muscle called the diaphragm, under the lungs. There is no clear picture here, which is located directly below the lungs, contract the action of vertically lifting the rib cage, and allowing the lungs to fill with air. So the voice is produced by the airflow from the lungs. So when it's time to speak, the pressure below the larynx, increases until it blows the vocal folds apart. The vocal folds are first forced apart at the bottom, followed by the top, and air is poured through the very narrow opening. The opening between the vocal folds is called the glottis, which open during breathing and narrow during voice production. When we are breathing, the vocal folds will open, and when we want to produce voice, the glottis, the vocal folds will be narrow. The pressure pours the air through the vocal folds, which creates a suction as we exhale. This suction pulls the vocal folds together at the bottom, followed by the top. When the air from the lungs blows past the vocal folds in a high speed, when the air from lungs blow with vocal speed, the vocal folds will vibrate. In order to produce typical loud speech, the vocal folds and larynx must vibrate normally to produce the voice. So, in conclusion, when we are produce the sound, the vocal folds will vibrate normally. So, how do we produce speech? There are three basic components in the production of speech sound: an initiator, or the lungs, the phonator, or the vocal cords, it's called larynx, and articulators. Speech is produced by precisely coordinated muscle action in the head, throat, chest, mouth, nasal cavity, here the nasal cavity, and abdomen. Speech development is a gradual process that requires years of practice. During the process, a child learns how to regulate this muscle. A child learns how to regulate this muscle to produce understandable speech. Different parts of our nose and mouth are carefully positioned to create speech sound. We position the velum. We position the velum. Chongmu has four parts: the tip, front, back, and root. The root, or the base tongue that give that located on the vocal folds. The root of tongue, or the base of tongue, that located on the vocal folds. And lips. Also, don't forget the lips. In reference to permanent parts of our vocal thread, such as the roof of our mouth, the roof of our mouth is called alveolar ridge and hard palate. Here is the volume and uvula that make the air that enter from the lips will go to the lungs. As you can see, the process of producing voice and speech is complex and plays an important. This is when we produce the voice, it plays important role in our daily life. So we know how to produce speech and how the air can produce the air can produce some voice from the vocal folds. So here the organ of speech, but there is no something, there is no name of organ. This is the name of organ. There is alveolar ridge, hard palate, velum, and uvula as the top of our mouth, the roof, the top, the roof of our mouth. And here the lips, how the airflow to exit the lips. Here the tongue. Number 6 are from tongue. This is the tooth. This is the nasal cavity. This is our nose, nasal cavity. And here is the vocal folds. This is larynx that going to the lungs, and this is the place go to the our stomach. Yes, our stomach. In the larynx we have the voice product. We can produce the voice from the larynx. So from the nose is placed to take an air. That is the first process of breathing. The air will take, the nose will take an air, so we'll bring it to the larynx, and passing the trachea. Also after that, we'll enter to the lungs. So in the lungs, the lungs will change the oxygen into the carbon dioxide. The oxygen will distribute to all of body of human, that will make the body of human strong, that we have oxygen in our, that as we know that we need an oxygen in our blood. So when the oxygen had changed to the carbon dioxide, the carbon dioxide will exit from the larynx, so we can throw it from the mouth or the nose. That's all from me. If there is any mistake, forgive me please, and thank you. See you later. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.